the world shifted a little and we started getting people who did 10, 20 different Gen AI projects in different parts of their business. So they took something that's very reminiscent of a venture capitalists kind of a portfolio approach, right? And then most of those pilots failed.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Deep Learning with PolyAI, the only podcast that is ringing in 2025 with a full, luxurious beard by 50% of the hosts. How's it going, Nikola?
It's pretty good. Should have told me I would have shared.
I know you could pull one of these off in 24 hours. I'm very, very jealous. How's your new year kicking off?
It's very good. With a bang, like a lot of work. I think we were, um, you know, I think it was December 31st, both 2 new deals and stuff. It was very exciting. So we were kind of like photo finish and then a bit of time off. How's yours?
About the same. Very excited to see our growth. And I'm really excited for 2025. It's going to be a very interesting year to say the least. But not to put into the shadow just yet, the year of 2024, which was a massive year, I think, for us as a business. It was a lot of fun, as you said. We grew like mad, and we had a lot of a very busy December as well. But also just in the world, the general environment of AI, CX, contact center transformation, where we play, we saw a lot of like trends galvanize, I think, in 2024. So I thought a good thing for us to chat about today was a year in review, taking a look at last year and getting your expert opinion in the trenches, academic, observational. Like, what were some of the massive trends that you saw in our general space that really emerged and shone in 2024? How's that sound? You want to go through some of those points today?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Not that I have a list, but
Just love to put you on the spot. What would you say? What would you say was the key shining beacon from 2024 with regards to this ever changing world of AI?
well, I mean, not to be a Debbie Downer, but it didn't change all that much, right? I
Oh,
think that,
interesting.
like, if you just like interpolated at the end of like 23, the excitement, and then you looked at everything that happened in 24, like a huge amount happened. But
Right.
then, right? Like, I feel like if I had to bet, I would have maybe wanted even a bit more. But a lot happened in terms of it actually, like on the model side, right?
Sure.
Like, it feels like it's stabilizing a bit, which is a sad thing. I would want it to. I want GPT-5. I want more use, right? I want
Right.
your changes. I think we were primed to have it accelerate even more. And maybe it's just because we're in the thick of it. It doesn't feel as fast. Then I think in terms of bringing it out to the world, it was the year, right? We had like first, second, third, 20th fully generative voice assistant rollout um, in the year, right? And a couple of their platform self-serve, everything around it that um, was really focused on bringing that to life. It was hugely exciting. So yeah, it was a good year.
So generative, I agree. Like, there wasn't any new groundbreaking models I feel that came out in 2024 that transformed, but there was a lot of evolution. I also think that with regards to enterprise adoption and like openness to bringing in generative, it seemed like 2023 was the year that it came onto the scene for wider adoption, but also the year that there was a lot of hesitation. Are the risks outweighing the potential rewards in enterprise applications? It seems like in 2024, most business leaders were like, no, these risks are overcome. It's easy to sort of manage for them. It's impossible to eliminate them completely, but the benefits definitely far outweigh the rewards. So we saw a spike in adoption, or at least openness to looking at generative solutions on an enterprise level in 2024. Would you agree?
Yeah. So I think that if I looked at kind of like people implementing AI virtual assistants before, it was like the early adopters. It was a very evangelical push where, people who were open to experimentation were doing it. And then the world shifted a little and we started getting people who did 10, 20 different Gen AI projects in different parts of their business. So they took something that's very reminiscent of a venture capitalists kind of a portfolio approach, right? And then most of those pilots failed. And I think that, somewhere halfway through the year, maybe a bit later, you had a lot of kind of like commentary from analysts and others like, hey, most of these things will never make it to production. And, like it's not all that it's made out to be. But that was wrong. We were just the winning ones to emerge. And actually, pilots are by and large like they should be sailing left and right. If they're not
That's the purpose of a pilot, when you think about it. So
especially with like wildly new technologies and many vendors trying to make them work and integrate them with enterprise workflows in different ways, it takes time, right? And it takes trying out brave things, and some will pay out massively, and others won't. And you'll just limit funding and double down on the winners, much like kind of like a VC firm that's
Yeah.
winners in its portfolio, right? And you need one company to deliver like 30x, and if you allocated it right, you have a 10x fund, and everything's great. So I think GenAI kind of like has followed that. So there was a lot of willingness, like if you think of it as like seed rounds, it was quite easy to start a lot of things. I think at the end of 23, it may be a bit harder now, right? Just the flurry of different things.
Sure.
You hear a lot of talk of just kind of like there are really like three players when it comes to foundational models now, right?
Sure.
OpenAI, Anthropic, and I think XAI has emerged as kind of like a late addition that managed to kind of like through Elon's, fast reaction, buying GPUs and stuff, they managed to kind of like maybe secure that third spot. And then it feels like it's crystallizing there in the kind of like model layer, right?
Sure.
Then when it comes to applications, much like enterprise sales cycles, it takes years for winners to emerge. And companies like PolyAI are just like working and growing fast and like really building on kind of like the initial basis we had by building more complicated, more valuable use cases. And I think that wherever you look, there are companies starting to really capitalize on the new things that are now possible with LLMs. So it was a big year, but I think much like that portfolio now needs to grow.
Yeah. I hear you, and that makes a lot of sense. Sort of double down on the established leaders because so many popped up in 2023, 2024. What's interesting is I feel like some of the hype that could have been discovered with new foundational models coming out and really transformative foundational models was sort of translated to enterprise application of said evolutions and new functionalities that were coming out. So while we're not getting a 5 or we haven't gotten a 5 yet, still how GPT-4 and 4 Turbo grew, going into omnichannel, going into multilingual, going into, different functionalities, the way that those were adapted to enterprise use cases, I think was sort of the fire of 2024 when it came to generative AI. It was really, how is this getting used to increase operational efficiency, to whatever the case may be, to transform the enterprise landscape. So maybe enterprises actually sort of were able to stand in the spotlight while the foundational model providers, LLMs and whatnot, were just like, okay, I guess last year was or 2023 was our big year for significant model releases.
I mean, I think that when you look at just like the multimodality, which became like your main talk to time, it was big, right? And like many advances happened, and cumulatively they're probably as important as what happened the year before. I think it's just like emotionally, as I look back, I expected that we would further accelerate, and I don't really feel like it happened. So I'm hoping that this year ends up being more exciting. The end of the year had very like weird undertones of what people saying, hey, scaling laws with field limit, etc. And like we have not, right? It's just gonna take a bit of time and more work and like data and maybe some architectural changes, innovations on that front as well. So yeah, we'll see. But I think when it comes to the enterprise, I think what I found interesting is that towards the end of the year, we started making huge progress with a few very large clients that have traditionally been builders, right? And when it comes to Gen AI, they were the ones that thought that they would do everything in-house, right? So I think that it's interesting that those outsized investments initially, as they often didn't bear fruit, then they went back to buying from the application layers, companies like us. So that's it.
So the builders became buyers in 2024, huh?
The most sophisticated builders have swung into buyers, and also I think decisive influencers on our roadmap in a way that I didn't see coming. If you ask me, Tola.
And do you think that was largely centered around the perceived complexity of managing LLMs within an enterprise application?
Yeah, I mean, I think it came down to the ability to make progress and justify the investments. So
Okay.
I think, you can backpedal and say AI won't give me all that much, or I'm going to use a different approach to get more out of AI, right?
Yeah.
So if they're like, halfway through their night in Vegas and, they're 2/3 of the money, you go like, okay, roulette is not working. Maybe it's time for blackjack, right? So I think that's really kind of like more of what happened. And yeah, it's been really interesting because those clients were the ones that actually have a strong opinion of like how they want to partner and collaborate.
Sure.
For our platform, they have been really valuable.
Oh, incredible. One of the things that you mentioned was obviously access to data. I would safe to say, and I'm so much so that I'll put it in the Chiron here. I think 2024 was the year of big data. I think it was a year of revisiting the essential nature of data, both in knowledge management, data management, where you're putting your data stores, because as like LLM and AI adoption practices go on within organizations, the essential fuel for efficiency there is data. And so it put the big spotlight on what are we going to do with it? How do we manage it? Where are we storing it? How do we access it? How are we organizing it, et cetera? And then, of course, with all those ducks in a row, you get the benefits of having more organized both view of the customer, view of the business. What do you feel? Do you feel like? Do you agree? Was this the year of big data, 2024?
I don't know. I mean, it's just an overloaded term. I feel like that's really it's yeah, it's been around for a decade. I don't know. I mean, I think that just to disagree for the sake of it, like I think a lot of times we run out of data, like we don't have more data. I think the multimodality and all of that stuff is going exactly in the direction of like we got to use a different form of data, a richer form of data, but we've not exhausted the signal, right? There were a lot of lawsuits and stuff, copyright things,
Mm-hmm.
being worked through. I think on our end, we've definitely put in like a serious amount of work into contracting and figuring out, the right to use different voices, the right to use different kinds of data for training, different kinds of models, people opting in to make their product better or others. So I think like the level of literacy around like the legislative side of data is definitely growing. Buyers, users, and everyone. And I think that like that question of like monetization, I don't know if we really have an answer. You have that New York Times lawsuit where people who have a lot of data are hopeful that they can, they might not have figured out how to monetize it, but they want to preserve the optionality of potentially monetizing it in the future.
Right.
I don't have any answers yet there.
I mean, those lawsuits gave birth to like a new business model for, traditional media companies, which was you got to sort of pick your horse and go with it and license access for training and purposes because it's going to happen anyway. So you could either sit here and battle exactly what level of access is entitled to these models or these model providers, or you just say, okay, I'm going to give you sanctioned access, OpenAI, I'm going to give you sanctioned access, Anthropic, and then let you have sort of an exclusivity agreement there. And that seems to be the course that those big media companies took.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it played out in a particularly interesting way, but I think that it has played out. Right? So like
Right.
there is a landscape of how you do these things, and I think, yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you feel that way, like a lot of it was definitely done with data, right? So like I think that accumulation and stuff definitely turned into more applicable models and things last year. So I guess we'll see how it goes, like as we trend through all the video and stuff, and if that gives us like um, that next generation of models. But yeah,
Maybe also one of the things that I think feeds into another trend. Curious on your thoughts on this, but I do think there was a new reinvigorated sense and view of the customer experience in 2024. And a lot of that was data driven. But many of the AI and customer service applications were with the customer in mind and not necessarily focus on more traditional like operational excellence, cut handling time, make it as streamlined as possible, like bare bones customer experience. Knowing that customers are getting more fickle, we've had a few episodes in the past where the consumer experience is not as forgiving now as it was in the past, and they'll forego patronizing a consumer brand on one bad experience. Like 60% of people, it's something insane. Just you tick me off once and I'm out. So there has been this new reinvigorated sense of the customer experience. And so I think that was a key trend within our space, is a lot of both operational metrics that were within contact centers shifted to what's the customer like? Not just CSAT scores either, but reducing things like average handling times, or focus on that in favor of, are we solving the problem? Are we containing and solving the issue? A lot of that is data driven, right? Because some of the other elements of that, personalization, predictive support, et cetera, are all based on consumer data. So I again, another stake in the ground. I think that this was the year of the customer, the year of the customer's importance to a lot of businesses. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's definitely the year where you have the technology to put the customer first and to create that experience. Because if you think about like how we used to buy things and do business, right? It was like often very personal relationship with individual seller, right? I was speaking with one of our colleagues and she was saying, you used to buy insurance where like the same girl shows up every year and goes like, hey, how's your family? Partner, children, etc. And like they would just take care of it for you, and you have that level of trust, right? And then we went into this like online thing where like you click. It's very non-personalized, right? It's just you're one of many, right?
Right.
And I became like the website as a non-personalized channel was like log in and do whatever. And if you log in, maybe we have your like payment details saved. But that personal touch, whether it mattered or not, or how much it mattered, debatable, but it was. And I think now with if we go to your kind of like data claims previously, like that first party data and like its organization in a way that allows an AI model to make use of it to become that seller at scale that knows things about you, your preferences, etc. Like, like it's starting to happen, right? We have many in a system launched where when you call in, like we know who you are.
Right.
Third, we know what you called about the day before, and we're like, hey, continuing on your router troubleshooting thing, did that work, right? That's very different. Like even with a very well provisioned contact center, unless you're able to get the same human that spoke with you yesterday, if they remember,
Right.
it would be hard to emulate that. And now it's starting to happen at scale because you're just able to give that like hyper well trained but also personalized and continuous state preserving thread. So yeah, I think that at least in our space, like we've made great strides, and I think that the customer, like the customer being the enterprise, is they're getting a lot more ambitious about what it is that they can now build with this kind of technology. So I don't know if this was the year of the customer. I think we have a decade of work on.
I mean, fair. But I think
Plus tramping.
as AI sort of finds its footing, especially in certain applications, customer experience and customer service was low hanging fruit, because I feel like, to your point, you go back to those old school insurance days, right? It was somebody showed up at your door, how are the kids, et cetera. That was the personal touch. So you bought the person, you didn't really buy the product because the product was a commodity.
Yeah.
Then you move into the era of automation, right? And then all old school automation efforts. If I walked into a store and my biometrics were scanned and I heard some really robotic voice say, Damien, if you want more cereal, go to aisle 7. I'd be like, this is creepy. I hate this.
Yeah.
But you blend the two, right? Now we're in an era where you have more personalized experience, even with automation solutions. You have LLMs that are providing really, really good like voices and a sense of a personal experience. It sounds more like a conversation in text, in voice, etc. It sort of takes that person who's showing up at your door and selling you insurance, but mixing it with the capabilities of, a broader sense of customer data and service at scale. So it's making it doesn't feel as creepy now if I call in and I'm like, hey, this sweater it doesn't work. And they're like, well, I've seen that you bought 3 other sweaters at this size. Do you want to try and up a size or down a size, et cetera? Like that feels more natural and organic, and I think kind of blends the best of both worlds. I really think that experience has only come up in the last year or so.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think especially in retail, right, where there is a level of products where I exist on John Lewis jumpers, right? Different color, and they're like, hey,
We got to get them as a sponsor. I think this is the second mention of them during the pod.
yeah. I mean, it's if they go, hey, like there's new you're a jumper and you worn out your previous like 5, like I'll probably just look at yeah, send it, charge me. Good. Like, yeah, you upsold me, but you also like serviced my recurring need for jumpers, right? So I think like that's not easy to do. Right? Like you've seen humans try and look, etc., but it's clumsy. It's a bit, as you said, like whether it's a human or a robot, like Damien cereals and aisle 6, like well, but if I'm like looking at sauces, weirdly, and they go like, "Hey, we're out of Carolina Reaper. We can buy it on Amazon."
Oh,
You
you're a
know,
hot fan, huh? Oh, we're dropping some Carolina Reaper mentions. Nice.
there's an incredible British company that makes like the Carolina Reaper ketchup, and it is. We'll put the link in the description. I'm kidding.
Oh, please. Yeah. All right.
We will. It's I
The
swear,
second unsponsored product mention.
I have a stash of 10 of them. Of course, I'll prepare that they'll go out of business, and that I want to keep it going as long as humanly possible. So, like, these are all things that you can pick up from like my purchase history, right? And if you really took the time to think about it, and then you made a recommendation, I'm almost definitely buying, right? Whereas, like, if you try and I see you doing a clumsy job at it while I'm calling about a refund or a return for something else, well, then I'm gonna get pissed off. And immediately, like, you're actually like decreasing my experience by trying to make more money. Whereas really all I want is, you know, there's what I want and there's like a really good recommendation. And that like space in between is the dangerous bit where I think
Yeah,
what's
because
the
when you
big twist?
non-tactfully like mention that you have so much information on me and it hits me the wrong way, then I do get extremely turned off by that experience.
Yeah, like only if I can get you a recommendation for something incredible, then you're gonna go like, oh, like, Big Brother, nice, you know everything about me. But damn it, I love that you saw. People opt in, they share their data if the product becomes better, but you have to explain to that the necessity of that.
Yeah.
I know some people that, like don't share their data with Google Maps because, fear of
Right.
um,
The drone showing up, following around. It's like,
God knows, right? I know some people who are like that, but very few are. I think most people are like buy into like, hey, if I share my data, like I'll be able to see traffic, and that's like being a good citizen of that application, right? So I think like people are starting to see value, right? And I think we're only really like you use ChatGPT, you've noticed the like memory save, memory save.
yeah.
And I don't know about you, but like for me, as I've like had conversations with it about like different products and things, like when it brings in like, oh, let's talk about cars, 2 kids, hence like you probably don't want to look at that because it's that there, like whatever. If you have more than 2 suitcases, that's gonna be a problem if you try to put a pram in the back. Like that's good.
Yeah.
That's like starting to be like because you can always like add to the context window, but if it's like curated from a lot of conversations, that's starting to become like the ultimate personal shopper, right? And there's going to be a lot of value from all of that. And I take a lot of value for that, like, in your own language terms, that hidden representation of who you are. I have a vector information, whether it's like discretized or not, of like who you are and how I can like make it better for you. That's going to be really valuable because that's like the super cookie, right? Of like who you are.
The super cookie. That is the title of the episode. The super cookie.
Well,
No, it makes a ton of sense. And I agree. All right. We're running up on time here. Really quickly, 3 words, 2025 looking forward, the space that we just discussed. Give me 3 words that are going to basically describe 2025 in the year of this fast evolving market.
well, I think like the hyper personalization as well.
All right. So continue hyper-personalization.
Yeah, I think like we got to show more, right? We got to keep people motivated, right? I think like the enterprise scale is like the second theme. We're like
All right. Scale.
like winning um, investments and like proof of concepts that have become like huge, 7, 8 figure deals
Right.
are going to like get repeated at scale, and that will define, I think, the winners of the enterprise Gen AI space, right? Where we hope to play. Right?
Yep.
So what do we say? We said scale, personalization. Then yeah, I think it's just like I'm waiting for the foundational layer.
Where do you think regulation is going for 2025?
God. Well, look, I mean, like I think it was a good year last year in that
Yeah.
like the EU AI Act is over I think slightly overreaching before we see it play out. That is what it is. Um, Thankfully, both the US and the UK have been a lot more reserved, and that I think will help define the tone in the Western world of like how we,
Yeah, I think that's going to continue with the incoming administration as well. There's very much a let's not talk increased regulation. So
feels that way. Yeah.
yeah,
And I think with that, I think we have like kind of like the clarity we need. I think it's also just like from the initial like panic of a world that realized that AI finally moved faster, delivered more at the end of 23.
Mhm.
I think that there's always that like uh, shadow of all the sci-fi films you've seen where, like AI runs out of control and becomes our overlord. And like it didn't happen. It's not
No,
happening. That's not, and I think people, that's settling in slowly. And that I think makes people like, including regulators, a lot less likely to do anything rash. So life is good. Like I'm very optimistic about everything for this year, right? Not just because we're doing well, but because I think like there's like some kind of like the elections behind us, all of that kind of like
right.
pent up stress is gone, and I think that ahead we just go like work, right? And I think
Yeah,
I was in on Serbian TV with a bunch of people, and
it's a great spot, by the way. Can I link that in the
you want
description as well,
to
along
do
with
that?
the link to sweaters and Ghost Reaper ketchup
Yeah, absolutely,
or
right?
Carolina Reaper rather?
Yeah, totally. And I think that there are people who are afraid of it, and like there's a lot of just like general population like is reticent about like what this will do to their lives, will their jobs be automated? But the truth is like I couldn't be more optimistic because like there's an overabundance of so many things that are not like really, really good
Right.
about technology, about like the availability of information, specialized services that are not available at scale that might have been available to, like a few people, right? So I think like futures are to lose. There's so much good coming, right? And I think we're just gonna make sure that society stays stable and uh, distribute some of those gains to everyone.
Yeah. No pressure. Just keep society stable. That's it. Not a huge ask.
Not a big ask. Yeah,
Great. Well, I appreciate your time, Nikola, and let's see what 2025 holds. But I can guarantee this: it'll be more of deep learning with PolyAI, and that's for sure.
absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
You take care.